Okay, so I've watched two interviews with the new Malaysian Prime Minister, Mahathir Muhamad. Um, and these interviews to me are very revealing. So one is from the Associated Press and one is from Channel 4 News here in the UK. Um, I was going to make this video actually about anti-Semitism, and I will discuss that a bit, but I'll kind of rearrange the topic to discuss Mr. Muhammad, because there's a lot of things that come up in the comments which I find both chilling and revealing. So, first of all, the Associated Press interview, I believe it was from 2018. What Dr. Muhammad says in his first statement is anti-Semitism is made up as a way to deflect criticism of bad people and of Israel. He's very critical of Israel, which is hardly unusual for a leader in an Islamic country. Um, well, my response to that is, if anti Semitism is made up, then what the hell is Islamophobia? Islamophobia is very often used by Muslims who want to silence legitimate critique of Islamic extremism. Now, I have no doubt that Mahathir Muhammad would say that anyone who questions Islam is a horrible Islamophobe. So this is sheer hypocrisy. Malaysia, overall, I've got a good impression from Malaysia overall, but I am concerned that from what I've seen in recent years, countries that were previously quite moderate, and although they had a large Muslim, well, they were Muslim majority countries, Indonesia, Malaysia, Bangladesh. In recent years, there's definitely been a trend towards Islamism. And whilst there's no comparison to, say, Pakistan or Iran, there's definitely been a tendency in that direction, and it's very concerning when leaders pander to Islamists, um, because that inevitably threatens minorities. Now, the second interview on Channel 4 was from last year. Um, it's worth mentioning that Dr. Muhammad is the world's oldest leader. He's 93. He's a year older than the Queen. 93 last year, so he'll be pushing 94 now. I think he's genuinely popular, but what I found striking in the comments, and I must admit I got quite angry about it, because the mentality is just there was this hysterical backlash against the journalist because he was asking questions about, for example, Mahathir's comments on sodomy laws, on his approach to dealing with corruption in Malaysia, and so on. As far as I'm concerned, these are all legitimate questions for a journalist to ask. Now, judging by the comments, I think that Mahathir Muhammad supporters seem to think that he is above scrutiny. Now, the man himself has said that no one is above criticism in that other AP interview, yet his supporters are like, how dare this journalist ask difficult questions? This is a mentality I've seen not just in Malaysia, in other Asian countries. It's very obvious in Thailand with their Majest laws. But a lot of this comes down to this notion of Asian values. I think Asian values is basically a cover for um, shackling freedom of speech. I think it's used as a kind of excuse by a lot of Asian heads of government to, and I'm not generalizing, I'm not saying this is the case in every Asian country, but it's definitely been the case that that is used as an excuse. Oh, well, these are our values, and we could do what we like because of sovereignty. Well, my stance on sovereignty is yes, every country's sovereign. Yes, every country is different. But if Asian values, for example, condone something like what's going on now in Brunei, then I say it doesn't deserve respect. And if you cannot tolerate a journalist doing his job and asking a leader questions, then don't say that you believe in democracy, because part of democracy is a free press. Part of democracy is leaders being asked valid and difficult questions. I would describe the comments I saw on that video as akin to a personality cult. Like, we love our prime minister. How dare you question him? The questions weren't even unreasonable. It's not like the journalist was being really rude, and he was simply stating facts. He was simply stating things that he has said in the past. And I just find it very sad and also very hypocritical, because Islamic states and Islamic majority countries are the worst offenders when it comes to persecuting minorities. But on the issue of Israel, I do find it interesting that Muhammad is playing up the anti-Israel card. It's a vote winner because anti-Semitism, hatred of Jews, is absolutely rife in Islamic countries, and there's individual Muslims who will, defend their Jewish friends and so on. So certainly not all Muslims feel this way, but without question, there is this obvious hatred of Israel in Islamic countries, and that's interesting. I mean, where is his outrage about what's happening in China against Muslim Uyghurs? Silence. So his supporters say he's brave for speaking out against the Jews. Really? It's not brave for a Muslim leader in a Muslim country to use the old Jew bashing card. That is not brave at all. I do not believe that criticizing Israel is automatically anti-Semitic, but I do believe that the notion that, well, definitely saying that anti-Semitism doesn't exist demonstrates. I mean, when's he going to start saying the Holocaust didn't happen? It's only a matter of time. That is where this ugly trend goes, and it's absolutely disgusting that within living memory of the Holocaust, there are not only lots of people online, but world leaders who are pandering to this lie. And it is an absolute lie. The lie that the Holocaust did not happen. One of the worst crimes in human history. So, do I respect Mahathir Muhammad? No, not with the attitude that he's showing. And his supporters, if you're offended by this video, I don't really care. I'm in my country, okay? If I go to Malaysia, I'll obey the laws. But in my country, I'm saying that Eurasian values basically equate to how dare you question our leader. It's a personality cult. And you cannot have a functioning democracy where leaders are beyond reproach. So I'm not saying that Muhammad himself is saying that he's above criticism. In fact, he said that no individual is above criticism. But his supporters are acting like he is. And for what? Because he was asking challenging questions. So I guess what you want is for him to grovel, is for the reporter to just worship Muhammad and agree with everything he's saying. That isn't going to happen. If you cannot tolerate journalists doing their jobs, then okay, Malaysia can block Western journalists. But then Malaysia cannot call itself a democracy, because if you don't have that sort of transparency, if you don't have a situation whereby, I mean, you don't have to agree with the questions, but people saying, like, I even saw one guy saying, I hope you die, you know, just really hysterical, over the top reactions. It's pathetic. Um, so, Malaysians in the UK, welcome. I hope you have a good time here. But if you agree with this and you think that Muhammad is above criticism, then please go back to Malaysia, because you don't believe in freedom of expression. It's just this mentality. It's something I see very often when Asian values is brought up, and I've long believed that Asian values is just an excuse for trampling freedom of expression. I'm sure the Malaysian constitution has freedom of expression, but what I do find concerning is this pandering to both anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and Islamism. I mean, he's saying anti-Semitism is made up. Well, what the hell is Islamophobia? Islamic countries are well documented for their intolerance towards minorities. Now, Malaysia is, I would say, far more tolerant than a country like Pakistan, but in what direction is it going? When Muhammad supporters are basically saying he cannot be questioned, that is what you're saying. If you are offended by this, if you want to insult me, then, you know, if you do make it personal, you know, you'll just be showing your true colors.